Some people criticize journalism as being for people who are boring writers. They seem to think that just because they can't put their own opinion into news stories or use a lot of adjectives, that the story is plain. I counter that it's harder to write a crisp, clean news story than it is to write a novel. Why? Because fitting what you have to say into a 300-word story isn't easy. It involves carefully crafting a story and incorporating only the important details. It requires a writer to use details and words that do more. Journalists need to use strong verbs to get their point across creatively. Use toppled instead of destroyed, jumped instead of moved, fled instead of left, and won instead of got. Good writers are precise. Don't just say that the mayor ordered the city park benches to be replaced. Is there only one park in your city? Probably not. The mayor ordered that park benches be replaced in Rum River Park, and it will cost $15,000. Journalists also know that while two words can mean almost the same thing, one may have a negative connotation and should be avoided. I learned that lesson the hard way. I was at a Cambridge City Council meeting one afternoon and had to dash back to the office, write the story, edit it, and pop it on the page before we could send the paper to bed. I was in a hurry, and I stated that Volume Tobacco was trying to wriggle out of its lease. The next morning, the owner of Volume Tobacco wasn't so happy when he called me. If only I deleted the R and used the word wiggle instead. In trying to push myself for a word I hadn't used before, I pulled a negative one out of the bag. I won't do that again. Good reporters avoid cliches, those phrases we've all heard 1,000 times that don't mean anything anymore. Today's sunny weather may be the calm before the storm, as the area could be enveloped in a blanket of snow by the weekend. Say what you mean more simply. Today's sunny weather could be followed by a snowstorm by the weekend. One of the things I hate most is technical language and jargon. You find it everywhere. During budget meetings, school administrators talk about revenues, expenditures, and fiscal years. What they mean is that they spent money and they earned money this school year and last year. Christians rely heavily on jargon and phrases only they understand, and if I see that in your stories, I'll be sure to point it out and ask you to change it. These young adults were hungry and striving for God's presence. They heard His voice during worship. What exactly do you mean by striving for God's presence? And what is worship? If you don't attend a Christian church, you won't know. There is no place for that in a news story. Be specific instead. They sang and listened to a sermon. Good reporters know that words are powerful, and they stretch themselves to find the perfect one for each circumstance. They avoid cliches, jargon, slang, and euphemisms. They keep opinion and loaded words out of their stories. They never use the words I, we, us, or our except in direct quotes. They avoid echoes and prune their sentences of any repetition. They don't state the obvious. They pick strong verbs. It's not easy to be a great reporter, but it's something to aspire to.